So in this video, we're actually going to cover hamsters, gerbils, rats, and mice. There's not as many diseases that you need to know for each one of these, so that's kind of nice. As far as hamsters go, there's really two main things you need to know about hamsters. Wet tail, or enteritis, very similar to the enteritis that will affect rabbits. It's the most important disease of hamsters. You need to really understand this one. Caused by poor sanitation, bacteria, could be caused by a virus or diet. The symptoms of this are wetness around the tail and rear of the animal, and that's mainly caused by runny diarrhea. Has a very high death rate that occurs within about 2 days of symptoms appearing. It's most often associated with poor sanitation, really just caused by general neglect, poor care, failing to clean the cage, that sort of thing. Prevention and treatment for enteritis, really this can be prevention and treatment for wet tail, Bacillus piliformis, and Salmonella, a whole bunch of stuff. If you change and disinfect spoiled bedding, cages, and equipment, and isolate your infected animals, you're really going to cut down on the instances of this happening. You want to make sure that your temperatures are kept around 70 degrees Fahrenheit to avoid estivation, which is similar to hibernation. When temperatures go above 80, or hibernation when temperatures go below 50. You want to keep the cage at a constant temperature, avoid drafts. They don't really respond well to treatment, unfortunately, so prevention is really the best route to go here. This is what wet tail will look like if your hamster ends up with it. Common diarrhea, it sounds a lot like enteritis, but this is much easier to handle. It's really just caused by an incorrect diet. A lot of times there's an overabundance of leafy greens, like your lettuces and stuff like that, or vegetables or fruits. You don't want to confuse it with serious infections. I know that can sometimes be difficult to figure out, well, is this enteritis? Is this diarrhea? What is this? You can always consult with a vet as well. Prevention and treatment, you want to make sure that you're feeding the correct diet, and you can obviously change the animal's diet if you notice these problems happening, especially by removing any leafy green vegetables and fruits that you know your hamster's eating. You also want to make sure that you're feeding dry grains and seeds. Gerbils. Gerbils are really hardy. Most of the time they're not affected with disease, but they do catch a common cold. They're really the most common ailment of gerbils. Symptoms of a cold would be loss of appetite, constant sneezing, if you see them with runny eyes or runny nose, anything like that. You want to avoid changing the temperature, make sure that you're avoiding drafts, any damp conditions, you want to get rid of that, and also overcrowding. That will affect your gerbils as well. Prevention and treatment, really the best treatment is to reduce stress on your gerbil. A lot of times that's caused by overcrowding, if there's more gerbils in there that should be. Gerbils actually do need more cage space than hamsters, even though they're smaller. You also want to make sure that you're avoiding drafts, avoid humidity, and you want to keep a constant temperature. You don't want your temperature to fluctuate very much. Red nose is the other one that gerbils can get, and it's a very common condition. It's actually caused by Staphylococcus bacteria. The animal will recover without any medication. Symptoms include what this poor little guy looks like, hair loss, red, swollen areas of the skin around the nose and muzzle. Rats. Rats get a respiratory disease called Mycoplasma pulmonosus. That's really the common disease. Symptoms include nasal discharge, snuffling, rattled breathing. If they're rubbing their eyes and nose, sometimes they'll tilt their head to the side, incoordination and circling. You can prevent it just with proper ventilation, making sure you're keeping things clean. You want to remove contaminated feed, provide clean bedding, maintain a really draft-free, constant temperature environment with low humidity. You can treat it just by adding antibiotics to their water, and you need to isolate and eliminate affected animals if the antibiotics are ineffective. So if the antibiotics aren't working, then you might have to put your rat down. And last but certainly not least for this video, mice. Mice are very hardy, especially with the proper diet, making sure that they're housed properly and exercising properly. But they can get a respiratory disease, and it's caused by several different organisms. And it can also result from environmental conditions, such as change in temperature. Again, those temperature fluctuations you really want to minimize. You want to minimize drafts. You want to minimize high humidity. Symptoms of this would be squeaking or rattly breath, runny nose, watery eyes, and also fur loss. Really, it's best to prevent the infestation just by eliminating environmental causes. That's really the best way to go. Salmonella and related bacteria can also be responsible for many of the serious infectious diseases, and that's really easily controlled with clean cages, clean water, clean feed, and also parasite control. Pretty much as long as you're keeping things clean, you should have fairly healthy animals. We'll cover guinea pigs along with some others in the next video.